May 20th, 2013, a moderate risk for tornadoes was issued for Oklahoma, stating strong ones could happen. And a tornado forms just outside of Newcastle, Oklahoma. This footage here was taken by amateur storm chaser Charles Cook, showing what this tornado was just a small cone, not even doing any damage, just swirling some dust under the ground. This was a dangerous situation, and no one knew the disaster that was about to unfold. Shortly around 3 p.m., this tornado was growing in intensity. However, it was just a wispy cone, simply a wispy funnel, if you'd say. This tornado was going to turn into something disastrous. The tornado was now getting closer and closer and closer to Moore. However, something terrifying would happen. As the tornado was heading into Moore, a large, well-constructed home was swept clean off its foundation, which was very surprising considering this circulation had just spun up mere seconds ago. The tornado was gaining in violent intensity, so much so that everything it touched was reduced to simply nothing, and cars were twisted around steel beams, and the tornado was definitely going to be extreme EF5. This tornado was, in this video, still Charles Cook's footage. It shows this bright tube just tearing up the landscape. This is going to be something that turns into a large, mile-wide wedge tornado. And right now it's looking to be at least EF2 to EF4 intensity. And you think this tornado is bad? It is nowhere near done yet, because the National Weather Service realized the potential gravity of the situation. And just something very tragic would happen, but this tornado was clearly violent, and the National Weather Service in Norman was trading information with the Norman WFO, and they knew something really bad was unfolding, and what they did next would be beyond wild. I will explain in just a short second. Clearly, this tornado was too violent for anyone to withstand. Many well-built homes were swept clean off their foundations. Even the properly fastened or properly anchored homes were pulverized. This tornado was now at EF4 intensity. You could see that this dusty circulation was a giant tube. It was something that was only tearing up the ground, causing minor damage like snapping hollow trees, or something of that fashion. However, this was a monster. Clearly, in this video you can see the circulation is growing into a dusty brown tube, and it's slowly wedging out, which is a term that simply means is growing into a massive wedge tornado. This was a literal disaster. No one could withstand the powerful circulation. If you thought this tornado was bad, it's no longer done, because this was a literal monster unfolding. You feel the same as people with Moore, literally powerless, as the violent core rips homes to shreds. Nothing that the core touched survived. Tragically, few people were killed as the tornado was entering Moore, but what would happen later on would be even worse. At this point in time, the tornado is clearly getting stronger and stronger. Every moment that is wasted is just going to kill more people. The National Weather Service had already issued tornado warnings, and stating that a large and dangerous tornado was on the ground just merely east of town. This was a monster, and it did have a brief rain wrap, or I wouldn't say brief, it had a rain wrap phase. However, that would only make it much dangerous, because this powerful circulation was persisting through more. And just as the storm was intensifying, people knew that there's going to be many deaths, many injuries, and much worse things to come. 4 oil rigs weighing upwards of 300,000 pounds were ripped off of their steel anchoring that was originally placed on a concrete foundation. They were ripped out of the ground. The tornado carried them for so long that they were never seen again. And as the surveys are ongoing, they still couldn't find them. In this footage here, you can see the tornado tearing through the city of Moore. And at this point, the circulation was gaining immense strength. Unfortunately, death and injury reports were trickling in from Newcastle and Moore. Clearly, this was a freak tornado, and we, or I should say, Moore, did not expect what this tornado was going to do next. At this point, the National Weather Service had an idea of what was going on, but this was a literal monster. There was nothing that anyone could do. And this, I'm out of words, because this was like the strongest tornado I've ever heard of. And you'd probably agree. This next thing that would happen, much more devastating. The tornado was moving slowly through the city. Upwards from the highway, the ground speeds were at least 20 to 50 miles an hour. You may say that's moderate pace. But this new situation was getting worse. Many people were already dead. Hundreds were injured. And this death-defying tornado was so violent that nothing in the core will even survive the winds. However, clearly people knew that this was a dangerous situation. Many storm chasers were in the area, watching this violent tornado rip through the town. And then, a tornado emergency was issued for Moore, Oklahoma, stating a massive and violent tornado was on the ground, and that everyone that was in the path needed to take immediate shelter. Take a listen. The wording for this tornado emergency was clear and ominous. This dangerous situation was unfolding faster than a paper airplane. Then, here is where it intensified. This circulation was persisting through Moore. It was quite obvious that this was dangerous. And if you even got caught in the path or anywhere near the core, you were likely dead. Cars were stripped of their chassis. Buses were literally mangled to the point of unrecognization. This violent tornado was shredding homes to pieces. Here, these photos are all the EF5 damage indicators, most of them 200 miles an hour to 205. This indicated that this was a literally destructive monster. And clearly, something was wrong. Because even though a tornado emergency was issued, it was clear that that would not be enough. And the animation here will show its lifetime. The tornado initially began over Moore. However, it would become very destructive. And from what we know, the tornado was the most violent in history because homes were not only shredded, they were grinded down to the point of unrecognization. and basements. They had the entire foundation or slab just completely disappeared. And while most of the damage indicators, or DIs, were EF4, 200 miles an hour, that was not a matter that we needed to take care of because, or I should say the NWS, because there is only around 10 EF5 damage indicators, all of which were low end, 200 to 205 miles an hour. A tornado would quickly loop, and that would also unfortunately cause 3 people to die at a gas station as it looped. The circulation would pass after being on the ground for a total of 40 minutes and 17 miles. But this story was not over yet, because the tornado outbreak was still underway, and everything that was damaged or destroyed could never be rebuilt again, because this was a destructive beast. Tragically, 7 kids died in the Briarwood Elementary School as the walls collapsed onto them, and a few other children would die in the Plaza Towers Elementary School. This was the most tragic case of all of the entire life cycle of this tornado. This was a literal beast, and the impending danger finally passed. This was just absolutely devastating, but I would call this the Oklahoma Monster.